Good morning, and thank you again to the Planning Committee and the Conference Assistants for organizing this event. I think gratitude is very important in community geography, so I'd like to echo that appreciation. I'm Hannah Torres, and today I'm going to be presenting just a snapshot of my current research in Florida, which is about mapping sense of place in coastal restoration in the Indian River Lagoon. To provide some context, this is part of a broader National Science Foundation coupled natural human systems grant, and the team is very interdisciplinary. It also includes Dr. Tim Hawthorne here, and we have faculty, postdocs, and students from across a range of disciplines, including geography, sociology, biology, engineering, and more. And the main focus of this project overall is oyster reef restoration and living shoreline restoration, and looking at restoration success and what that means across all of these various disciplines. And so with my social science colleagues, we are looking particularly at sense of place and the role that that plays in restoration success from the human perspective. So sense of place, as we are defining it, refers to attachment and meaning that people give to a place. And this is important and relevant for restoration because strong attachment to a place has been shown to be linked to care and action to protect that place. But depending on the meaning that you give to a place, that protection and action might look different. So these images here are showing an example from Maine where there could be conflicting meanings that are given to a place, and these divergent meanings could potentially lead to conflict. So if you've got environmentalists on one hand and fishermen on the other hand, both very much value the natural resources in coastal Maine. However, because of the divergent meanings that there sometimes can be between these groups, there can be, like Mia was talking about with the conflicting cultures. So because of these meanings, people might want to take actions differently to manage these resources. So that's why sense of place matters in restoration, and here are some of the research questions that we're looking at. We want to know whether human perceptions of restoration impact are aligned with ecological impact. We want to know how sense of place is linked to human behavior and perception of restoration efforts. So how people's perceptions can either help them to support or maybe be not so supportive of the projects that are going on, and how community members can inform and influence future restoration success. And we're exploring these questions through currently 3 main research activities, and in a few weeks we're going to be moving on to a 4th one, and I'll talk about each of these activities in turn now. The first research activity that we've been doing is online sketch mapping, and through this practice people can visit our website, which is down here, citizensciencegis.org/place, and they can mark a place on a map that is meaningful to them, and then they answer survey questions related to that place. So what this is illustrating is people's top reason for attachment to that place. So this could be important if it's incorporated into restoration, because restoration decisions can reflect these different reasons, for example. So if there's a place that people like to go to because it's beautiful, then we could consider the aesthetic impacts of certain restoration projects. Or if there's a place that people really appreciate because it's where they go to do the activities they enjoy, we might want to consider how restoration might impact their access to these places. So restoration decisions can be made considering these kinds of attributes. And we also have information about whether people volunteer and a lot of other factors that we can consider. The sketch mapping activity that we do is done in conjunction with our focus groups. And so we will have people individually map places that are meaningful to them, similarly to the online mapping activity. But because this is a facilitated activity, we have people map polygons of places that are meaningful to them. So we can get the different size and scale of places that are meaningful and see how that plays a role too. We also have people individually map places they perceive as degraded and explain the kinds of impacts they've seen to those places. And then after they do those two individual mapping activities, we have about an hour-long discussion and we talk to people about what they do in the Indian River Lagoon, what kinds of things they think are important to come out of restoration, what kinds of impacts they'd like to see, and what their opinions are. And then at the end, we have them work together as a whole to map priority places. So they have to agree on 3 priority places for restoration. And we let them decide what priority places are. Typically what we've seen is people are defining priority places as places where they would like to see future restoration projects occurring. And some of the themes that we've heard in the focus group discussions around deciding which priority places to choose have been that they want to see places restored where a lot of people use them for recreational purposes. They go kayaking, they go for walks and like to see these places. They also think that decisions about priority places for restoration should be based on the visibility of the places so that they can not only have an environmental impact but an outreach and educational impact as well. And also the impact of the restoration itself. And people in our focus groups in this area tend to base that a lot around places that have been heavily developed and where they see a lot of runoff occurring and development activities. The 4th activity, which is coming up, is one that I'm particularly excited about. We're going to be having a community roundtable event, which is a listening session where we're going to get members of the public, community members that we've been talking with, in the room with restoration scientists and people who are going out and doing restoration activities. And the goal is to make sure community members know that they're being listened to. And we've gotten our restoration scientists on the team to commit to making changes based on what they hear in these conversations so that community members will be able to see the actual impacts of their participation in these processes, because that's a complaint that we've heard, is that people come to meetings and don't see all of the impacts that they'd like to, don't see what's happening from me going to all of these meetings. And so that's something that we're going to be working on in the coming weeks. And the significance of the work that we're doing here and the significance of looking at sense of place and these emotional attachments to places in environmental restoration are that it helps to bridge the gap between scientific knowledge and local knowledge and local priorities. And so that's something that we really prioritize in the work that we're doing. Just because somebody doesn't support a restoration project, it's not necessarily because they don't understand. It's not because, oh, they don't get what the scientific impact is going to be. It could just be because their priorities aren't aligning with the restoration priorities. So there needs to be a dialogue and there needs to be two-way communication about these kinds of things. And so with that, I thank you. I wanted to just point out, I wasn't sure how to throw it in here, but I threw in some collaboration keywords because this is just a snapshot of one of the projects I'm working on. So I threw in some other topics and ideas that I'm interested in as well. And thanks also to the PI and the co-PIs who are working with me on this. Thank you.